Hey guys, so this is our inquiry lesson. I'm going to have to move my camera around a bit to fit everything in. So this is the sort of last part of our why do we live here inquiry. And we just want to recap really what we have gone through so far. So we live in Bristol, which is a city within England, and England is part of a group of countries called the UK. And we're part of a larger group of countries and a part of the European continent. So we're part of Europe. Now, what have we found out so far? We have found out about these different types of settlements. Now, underneath your date in Walt, you wouldn't have seen the Walt yet, but if you write in your date, which is the 11th of the 1st, 2020, and if you just write in Walt and leave it blank there for a second. Underneath, if you pause the video and try and draw in these three types of settlement, have a guess with which types of settlements you think they are. There was three that we looked at. I'm going to give you a second to have a guess by yourself if you wanted to pause the video. If you have no idea, I'm going to give you a bit more of a clue, and I'm going to tell you that one of these is a linear settlement, one of them is a dispersed settlement, and one of them is a nuclear settlement. So there's a bit more of a clue there now. So if you want to pause the video and try and have put down which one's nuclear, dispersed, and linear, you can do. And if you have to see if you got them correct. So nuclear meaning it's all around one site, linear means it's along a river or road, and dispersed, as the word implies, it means it's spread out. Dispersed means to separate. So what do people need in order to survive? So again, if underneath your settlement types you want to write down what you think the 4 or 5 things people need to survive are, and you want to pause the video. Okay, if you've had a go at writing down what you think they are, let's see if you're correct. They definitely need fresh, clean running water. They need somewhere to hunt or fish. They may need some area to farm. They may need to forage. So all these things, food and water are a major one, and that water would also include sort of health and hygiene as well. So sanitation and going to the toilet. Previously, running water, clean, fresh running water from a river was the best way of getting rid of human waste, basically. So if you were to immigrate or emigrate, it depends on where you're coming from. So if, for instance, I decided I would like to move out of this country, to yourselves and my family and my friends, they would say that Mr. Lakin is emigrating, so he is leaving our country and going to another. Now, let's say, for instance, I wanted to emigrate to New Zealand. If I moved to New Zealand, as I said, I would be emigrating to my friends and family at home. But to people in New Zealand, I'm not leaving their country, I'm coming into it. So I'll be an immigrant, I'll be immigrating to them. So it depends on where you're from. So if you're going to somewhere, you are emigrating. If someone's coming into your country or area, you are an immigrant. And I might travel to another or move to another country, or anyone else might travel to another country for a push or a pull factor. So just like the word implies, if someone is pushing you, they are pushing you away. So have a think what you think might push someone out of an area. Think about the things that you need to survive. And then underneath what you've done so far, what I would suggest is if you take your pen and write push. Sorry, I'm doing it with my mouse, it's quite hard. Push. What do you think a push factor might be? What reason would someone feel like they're pushed out of an area? And then the other one is a pull factor. So just like we mentioned with push. Pull is when you're being sort of drawn to somewhere. Someone's getting you're being pulled into something. So what might pull you towards another city or another country? Just write down one answer of what you think a push factor is and what you think a pull factor is. So as we mentioned before, immigrant is someone who leaves their country to live in your country, and emigrant is someone who leaves your country for another country. So our quick vocab check, vocab wall. We've got lots of different pieces of language there that we've talked about and shared over the last couple of weeks. Civilization, settlement, situation, population, migration, rural, boundary, climate, city, town, hamlet, dwelling, and urban. Now, the challenge for you guys today is to pick one or two of those words and find out what the definition means. So again, if, say, for instance, you're choosing civilization, you would Google civilization or ask mum or dad, ring Nan, say, Nan, what does civilization mean? And she might say, well, civilization basically means the level of development at which people live together in a community. So you'd write that word down, civilization equals, and then write down your definition, okay? So there's a few different ones to choose from. Some of these you might already know because we've had a look at some of these words already, but let's just see how many of them you do remember. So I'll let you pause the video there, choose a couple of words before we move on. So previously, as I mentioned earlier, most early civilizations and settlements try to live or develop near a river. Now, a river includes lots of different advantages. I mentioned one earlier, sanitation, so human waste, cleaning yourself, actually washing, you would have done by the river. You can use water to drink from, and you can also use the river as a source of food. So there's different plants that you can eat, and obviously there are fish as well. So a river was a really important resource for early settlements and most definitely early civilizations. And you'll find across the world a lot of places still sort of are developed and grow around rivers. Even though we're in the modern world, they're still really important factors for us. So today we're going to have a look at the Indus Valley civilization. Missed out my up there. So what was it? So the Indus Valley civilization, oh, I lose all my slips now. It was the first and one of the first and largest ancient civilizations in the world, which is pretty impressive. It's roughly 5,000 years old, so it's even older than the Egyptians and the pyramids, which is pretty impressive. The civilization was full of farmers, and they survived through what they could grow and then eventually sell and trade. And through archaeology, we've been able to discover what they did, how they traded, what language they used. Although we've found lots of information about their language, we are unsure of what it means, but they've got lots of pictures and symbols on there, so we have a rough idea of what the language looked like, but unfortunately we don't know how to decode it yet. Now, if you're wondering where it was, if you have a map or if you've got the internet, you can look on the Google Maps. The Indus Valley was in between sort of northwestern India and southeast Pakistan. And to the north, you had sort of China and the Himalayan mountains, which is where a lot of its rich waters came from. So let's just move this around. Oops. So it was situated where modern day Pakistan and northern India now exists. The Indus people lived on the banks of the Indus River, the longest river in Pakistan. So you can see there a bit more of a detailed map. The area of Pakistan and India, and the purple area is sort of like the valley in which the river sort of feeds essentially. It's the Indus Valley, which is going to be like this kind of shape. So the Indus River begins high up in the Himalayan mountains, which is the tallest mountain range in the world, and it flows almost 3,000 kilometers to the Arabian Sea. And this is what a part of the river looked like. Although you notice the mountains are quite bare and brown, what do you notice about the landmass that is right next to the river? So the first farmers liked living near the river because it kept the land green and fertile for growing crops. The Indus people needed the river water to drink, wash, and to irrigate their fields. So they also may have used them for religious ceremonies like baptism or other religious ceremonies in different faiths that use the river as sort of like a cleansing ritual. So what did it look like, the actual Indus Valley settlements? So there are more than 1,400 cities and towns. The biggest was Harappa and the Mohenjo-daro, and around 80,000 people lived in these cities. If you're wondering if 1,400 cities is a lot, the amount of cities and towns in the UK is just it's either 110 or 140. So there are not many at all compared to this really large civilization. So the Indus cities were neatly planned. They had straight roads which crisscross in a grid pattern to form city blocks. And that there shows a picture of one of those cities. You can see just how big the walls and the streets are. So they were very skilled builders. The cities were even arranged to catch the wind and provide a natural form of air conditioning. So this civilization was very, very advanced, very intelligent. So we think they may have some form of government, but we don't know how or what kept them in charge. So look at our next question. So what was life like there? So the civilization was special because they were peaceful. Archaeologists found little evidence of weapons or warfare. And this is what's called an artist's impression of what life may have been like in the Indus Valley. So that might have been a marketplace or a family making items ready for trading. So as it was so hot because of the area, a lot of people would have spent much of their time outside because of the hot climate of living around the equator. So some families had courtyards, which were open spaces, and children could play there with their toys pets, such as monkeys and birds. They also found in the sewers of Indus Valley a toy animal. So they believe that the popular bath item, the rubber ducky, was sort of the first idea of children playing with toys in the bath or in the shower, maybe came from the Indus Valley because they believed children had their wooden toys, maybe as an animal, they're playing with them in the bath or in the shower if they were from a richer family, and then at some point that poor child lost their toy down the drain, and it's been uncovered thousands and thousands of years later by archaeologists. So if you ever wonder where the rubber ducky came from, he's quite old. So children in the Indus Valley seem to have loved toys. Archaeologists found clay toys of carts or animals. They've also found model cows that waggle or wiggle their head, and toy monkeys that slide down rope. So very skilled craftsmen and craftswomen. So children in the Indus Valley helped out with daily tasks, including farming and hunting. So all we ask you to do nowadays is go to school, brush your teeth, and make sure you eat your vegetables. when life was a lot harder back then, when you had to actually farm and hunt as well. So you don't know how lucky you are, 4 acres. So one thing we do have in common though, just like you guys like to trade Pokemon cards, the children and the Indus Valley civilization liked to do lots of trade. So rather than trading money, they had these things called tokens or seals, and they were sort of similar to coins, and they used them to trade their goods. And we can see one of them here. So we can see from this picture, it looks like some kind of animal, and they believe that the shape over here might have been a pot from what they've discovered. So whether this means a number or an amount, they think this might have been someone who was selling, say, an animal product, or maybe could have been someone's name. They're not 100% sure yet, but they believe this is a value of something, an item. So today, guys, what we're going to actually be doing is an Indus Valley research map. Now, you could either Google Indus Valley, or you could go back from this video and reread or re-listen to some of the things I've said. So we're going to try and answer a couple of different questions here. Now, we're going to focus on what was it? What was the Indus Valley? Where was it? What did it look like? And what was life like? Now, I've got a picture here for you to use, and I'll upload that as an interactive page that you can use. But if you wanted to draw your own mind map, so Indus Valley in the middle, and then a couple of pictures or a couple of pieces of information answering those questions, what was it, where was it, what did it look like, and what was life like, you can do that as well. So you've got the option to either do the interactive one, which might be hard with an iPad, or you can. I tell you what, I'm gonna do it as a write-up, so it's easier for everyone to do, because I think the iPad and laptops will be really tricky to write, because there's a little bit of writing there to do, and then you are able to watch the video clip again and write up straight away. So mind map, guys, Indus Valley in the middle, and then answer those questions all around. Try and draw some pictures, maybe add those tokens in, or what some of the toys were like. But if you go onto Google and type in Indus Valley and BBC Bite Size, there's lots of information on there, and there's some on YouTube as well. But Miss Metters has made a really great informative PowerPoint here for everyone, so feel free to go back over the video clip and use that to help you as well. Okay, guys, good luck with the work, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.